Hello. In such a male-dominated industry such as the racing industry is, it was always difficult for female riders to make an impact in the riding ranks. LeeAnn Olsen was one such female rider who did pioneer the way for other female riders in Sydney. LeeAnn recalls to me recently that one of the best compliments that she ever had was from a fellow rider who said to her, "Gee, you just look like one of the boys out there in a race." I caught up with LeeAnn this week for a chat about her wonderful career. LeeAnn Olsen, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
LeeAnn, of course, you and I go back a long way, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but can you tell me about where it all started for you? North Queensland, Townsville?
Yes. So we've come a long way from there, I guess. So I started off, met my husband. It was his fault, if you like, that I became a jockey, and I outrode my claim in North Queensland with still a year and a half of my apprenticeship to go. And so for my husband it was Sydney or the bush. So we came to Sydney on loan, and I said to my husband at the time, I said, if you ever want to have a go at the Metropolitan or Sydney, now's the time to do it. So he moved on down and we never went home.
So of course, like other jockeys, they had a dream to become a jockey and ride. That wasn't your dream.
No, my passion was showing and dressage, and racing had some really nice horses that could do really well in the show ring, and that was my only connection with racing, to be honest. So I had lots and lots and lots to learn, because not from a racing family, and lots to learn.
So moving to the big smoke, Sydney, you must have come across some incredible obstacles, because you were really a pioneer for female riders. There wouldn't have been many around when you came to Sydney.
There was probably only a handful, and they were fantastic horsewomen. Certainly had lots of skill and ability to ride, and I was very fortunate coming down here that I had one in particular, Sandra Dan, who took me under her wing, and she could really ride, and had represented Australia in Japan and all that sort of stuff. And I was really fortunate for the people that I had around me for the support.
Because back in those days, the minimum weight for riding would be 52 kilos. Of course today it's now up around 54 kilos. So you, amongst a lot of others, would have struggled with your weight.
People think that girls find it easier with weight. I can tell you I did not. I spent many hours in the sauna. I spent many hours running with plastics on, driving in the vehicle with plastics on and the heater on the way to the races to shed that last, couple of grams, if you like, a couple of ticks, as we call it. I've spent my life being dehydrated. My body doesn't know anything else, really.
And of course, being in a male-dominated industry, I remember being your manager at the time, and I remember the number of excuses that trainers would give for not putting a girl on, and you've probably got a list of hundreds.
Yeah, no, there's lots, and I guess they think that girls need to be stronger or whatever, and I can tell you that I worked my butt off to look like the blokes, and I remember one particular ride, there was a jockey down from Brisbane, and I won the race. And probably more of a compliment than even winning the race was the fact that this jockey came and said, "You look like one of the boys," was a feather in my cap. That meant more to me than winning the race, because I worked so hard to not look like a girl. And when you watch the races and you go, "Well, that's a girl," but they're just different. But you can pick the ones. There's a couple out there right now that you have to look twice and you go, is that a girl or not? Whatever. But I did work really hard to just try and look like one of the boys, and back then the use of the whip wasn't as controlled as it is now, and you had to be seen to, what they used to say in McDittman's terms, lift them over the line and all that sort of stuff, and so that was different, and I worked really hard at that, and I had a personal trainer, and who was number 4 heavyweight boxer in Australia and stuff like that, and he said I punched harder than half the blokes and things like that, so I did work really hard at that.
Of course, not many race courses when you were riding had female jockeys rooms. Now, of course, racetracks have to actually build female jockeys room to accommodate the number of female riders that go around these days.
Yeah, at a lot of meetings there's equal number of females to males, and I think that number will only increase. So it's awesome.
So let's talk about a couple of the fast horses and good horses that you rode. I remember you telling me once that Just Awesome would have to be one of the fastest horses you've ever ridden. That be true?
Certainly. He probably was a bit unlucky in his race record, but he could fly. He was certainly one of the fastest that I've ever ridden.
And you were lucky enough to win a Newcastle Gold Cup for Paul Cave, if I remember correctly.
Bless him. He was probably, apart from my husband, the biggest supporter that I had from a trainer. And to be given that opportunity, and the horse only had 50 and a half on his back that day, and to have Shane Dye and Mick Dittman run second and third was a huge day for me.
Well, Shane Dye and Mick Dittman were at the top of the game when you were riding, but there must have been others. Who did you look up to when you came to Sydney?
We had Damien Oliver and Darren Beedman. They were really good at their trade and things like that. And of course they went off and did other things. Darren went overseas, and Damien was more in Victoria and things like that. So yeah, but Darren followed a lot, and he was just super with the way he rode them out and nursed them, and got the best out of them.
And who would have been the best horse that you saw?
Probably Might and Power at that time.
You were based at Rosehill. Did you ever get to ride him in work?
I did actually. One day on the B cinders, got to go around that way, and fortunately, because he was a very strong horse, I managed to not be in trouble and have him go too fast, so that was all good.
So tell me what LeeAnn Olsen is doing now. I know you've got a job with Racing New South Wales. What's that entail?
Yeah, so I've been away from racing and was working for a manufacturing company, equestrian gear, which I absolutely loved. I had a few trips overseas and where they were all produced, and so I learned a few things on that side of the coin. In fact, they make track work saddles and race saddles and things like that as well, so I had a little bit of input into that. So from there I had a little bit of time off and then did some bookkeeping and things, and so it's almost full circle, and I'm now back at Racing New South Wales, helping look after apprentices and coaching of the apprentices coming through.
Wow, that must be very rewarding.
Well, hopefully we'd like a few more coming through, which would be great. So I'm not long been there, so it's all very new to me, and trying to put things into place to hopefully keep that door open, and the stream of new people coming into our industry would be great.
So you also juggle that task with being a mother as well, and would you like your daughter to become involved in this industry?
Either fortunately or unfortunately for her, she's way too tall, which would make control of weight that much harder, and she would really have to kill herself. And I've seen tall kids like her do it, and they get around very skeletal, and it's not very healthy, and it's rewarding while you can mentally be on top of that, and it's a really tough game because you're just fighting yourself, you're not fighting anyone else. It's a really tough gig. People, managing your weight, even if you're not a big person, it's a really big deal, and it's probably even harder when you don't have a lot of weight to lose. So then it comes back to managing the amount of fluid in your body and things like that. And often you have kids, apprentices, or even some jocks get to a meeting and they pass out, they're unable, they don't have the energy to fulfill their engagements, and the health side of things is a huge issue. So I'm kind of glad on that front, due to her height, that she's not down that road, but if she wasn't as tall, I'm sure she would be a very good jockey. But
you tell me she's pretty talented in the saddle, so maybe we might see her at Olympic Games and the equestrian events.
You never know. She's had a very successful year this year in winning at Grand Nationals, and then being reserve champion lady rider at Sydney Royal, which is a huge feather in her cap as her first time in that age group as a lady rider and no longer a junior. So very proud mum, and she's certainly got the feel for riding a horse.
She's got the great teacher in you, and thanks for spending some time with us, LeeAnn, and we hope to see the Olsen name in lights at the next Olympic Games maybe.
That would be awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.